Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian Anderson from the MITRE Corporation. Just wanted to let you know we're going to give it just another minute or so, and I'll allow everyone the chance to dial in, and we'll get started here with the Vci Monthly Webinar. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, so thank you so much for dialing into our monthly webinar for VCI. I'm Brian Anderson. I'll help kick things off here, but we have a very exciting webinar in store for you with a number of demonstrations and presentations from the member community that we're incredibly excited and honored to share with you. I'll remind everyone that has dialed in that on your Zoom link is a Q&A feature. Please feel free to ask questions of the panelists using the Q&A feature. And for my fellow panelists, please try to monitor that as best as you can for questions that might be directed to you to answer and help your fellow panelists if there are questions there that you feel you can answer. We like to try to have as much of an interactive webinar as we can. All right, so to kick things off in terms of our agenda for today, we're briefly going to give a few member updates, and then we're going to dive into the showcase and the demonstrations, and then we will have a technology update and some closing remarks. In terms of the member update, for those that are new, and there are at least 60 of you that are part of the VCI community since we last had a monthly webinar, wanted just to remind everyone that on our website, vci.org, you can find some of the very important documentation that describes the mission and vision of VCI around empowering individuals, around the core focus of VCI being the harmonization and development of the smart health card specification and standard for issuers and for verifiers. Again, tying back to empowering individuals to be able to have access, ownership over their own health data, to use that and tell their own story. Of course, one of the most obvious use cases that we're focused on in this pandemic is enabling individuals to share verifiable vaccination credentials for the medical purposes and the reopening of society. So a brief update here on one of our websites, smarthealth.cards. If you're familiar with that site, you'll probably recognize that it's gone under it has had a renovation done to it. So there's a lot more content. It is consumer facing. And there's actually going to be more information coming to that site. So if you haven't checked out smarthealth.cards, that's where you can go to find all of the technical specifications, some specific developer guidance, as well as now consumer-facing documentation, FAQs associated with smart health cards. Smarthealth.cards, check it out. And there will be more content coming to that very soon. The brief members update. So first off, we'd like to welcome Dr. Christopher Longhurst. Dr. Christopher Longhurst comes from UC San Diego Health. He joins the VCI steering committee. So welcome, Christopher. And I also wanted to mention that since we last spoke, we have over 530 members part of VCI. So the community is continuing to grow. We're incredibly excited about the level of interest and engagement from so many of you. The notable demonstrations and highlights in our showcase today will include the State of California, University of California, San Diego Health, Apple Health, Walmart, and Akinox. And so without further ado, I'll pass it off to Rick and Chris from the State of California and UC San Diego Health. So Rick and Chris, if you'd like to take control of the screen, I'll stop sharing. And you can take it from here.
Thank you so much, Brian. And hopefully you all are seeing my screen. My name is Rick Clow. I'm the Chief Technology Innovation Officer for the State of California. New to public service, I joined the state earlier this year after a long career at Google and a number of startups prior to that. was originally drafted as a volunteer on the vaccination effort. Back in January, there were some issues with data, trying to get to ground on what the rate of vaccinations was, whether the data we were sending to the CDC was accurate. And in the course of working with a number of folks at both the California Department of Technology and the Department of Public Health, got asked to stick around and have had an incredible introduction to public service. This tool that we launched last week really was born out of the early experience and exposure to what the experience was in the state of California. People were getting paper cards. It struck me as a former product manager and startup guy that maybe there was a better answer. After some conversations with Chris Longhurst, who you'll hear from shortly, Mickey Tripathi at HHS, and the folks from the VCI steering committee, quickly figured out that there was an opportunity for us at the state of California as the operator of the California Immunization Registry, that we could be an issuer more or less of last resort. That if you got a smart health card from a primary source, from somebody like UC Health or from the Walmart or Sam's Club pharmacies, who you'll hear from shortly, that would certainly be one way of asserting your vaccination status. That said, not every resident will have access to their healthcare provider. And we wanted to make sure from an equity point of view that everyone would get access to the ability to get a digital copy of their vaccine record. So we proposed to the governor's office a couple of months ago this idea, emphasizing it was open source, it was standards-based, and we got the green light. My team at CDT took ownership of building the front end to the back end immunization registry. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through a quick demo of this site. So anyone that's on the call that hasn't already done this, if you are a California resident or you were vaccinated in the state of California, this will work for you. So you put in your name. This is live production data, so you all get to see just how old I am. And this will work on anyone vaccinated in the state of California, with the caveat being that the immunization registry data is the source of truth for our checks. So if the information that you shared with the provider was not, in fact, transmitted in that HL7 message to us, we might not have contact information for the individual record in question. In this particular case, I didn't do any magic on the back end. My contact data happened to be in the system already. So if you see here, this is just my Google Voice interface. I received a text message from the same site, myvaccinerecord.cdph.ca.gov. When I typed in my PIN, I then retrieve the Smart Health Card QR code, which is on the left, along with a verification of my name, date of birth, and vaccination events that are registered in the immunization registry. Today, this is the interface that users will see. Should there be future iterations, you'll hear from Ricky shortly, where we might improve the user experience. So on the resident side, the ability to either store this natively in a mobile wallet or health application will certainly be an improvement. But today, a resident who does this on a cell phone can just take a quick snapshot. If they have Clear Health Pass, they can point their phone at that QR code, and that will store their vaccine record in Health Pass. Common Health, of course, on Android, you can just point your phone at that QR code. It will also store that natively. So that is the demo. I will stop sharing, and I don't know if you want me to answer questions now. Brian, I'll defer to you, or do we want to continue on and do questions later on?
Well, that's great, Rick. No, what would be best is if anyone has questions for Rick or the fellow panelists as we go through these showcases, please put them in the Q&A chat link there. And so Rick, just monitor that for the questions that will likely be coming through. But with that, we'll pass it over to Dr. Longhurst from UC San Diego Health.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. And I just want to give a big shout out to Rick and the entire team at California Department of Technology and California Department of Public Health. Really a tremendous, rollout of smart health cards statewide. As Rick mentioned, this is something we've been thinking about at UC San Diego Health for a while. And that's in part because we opened the first vaccine superstation in the state of California. So in partnership with the city and county of San Diego, along with our beloved Padres who are crushing Los Angeles, we opened this January 11th. We ended up administering over 500,000 doses to our vaccinated San Diegans over the last 4 or 5 months. And so we wanted to make sure that we could get digital copies of these vaccine cards. And so, as Rick mentioned, we stumbled across VCI, became very involved, and have strongly endorsed this standard. I want to give a shout out to our vendor, Epic, and Janet Campbell at Epic, who's been a terrific partner, because Epic has made this available to all clients as native code. And so we've been working with them on this. We'll actually be enabling this at both UC San Diego Health and UC Irvine Health starting tomorrow. UC Davis is committed to roll out this month as well. And then UCLA and UC San Francisco are committed to rolling out, but pending code updates. And so what this looks like on the MyChart side for our patients is the QR code that Rick showed. I want to point out 2 reasons that we're doing this, though, when the state is also doing this. So the first is that we're doing primary source verification because we actually administer these vaccines. When they get a copy from us, it's what we consider primary source verified. And so while the California state rollout is working for the majority of residents, it's nice to be able to get it from the place that you were vaccinated as well. The second is that VCI, as Dr. Hlomka says, doesn't stand for Vaccine Credential Initiative anymore. It stands for Verifying Clinical Information, because this smart health card standard can encapsulate not just vaccine information, but also test results. And so you can see here, the QR code on the right shows how we might be able to issue a QR code with PCR test results for travel or other purposes. And so this workflow that we're turning on tomorrow allows both a printed copy with the information that's encapsulated in the QR code. And today our patients can get this PDF. It just doesn't have the code. It has the rest of the information. And then, of course, it also includes the ability to export this to your health wallet on an Apple or Android device. So excited to be turning this on tomorrow at UC San Diego and UC Irvine, and look forward to questions in the chat. And thanks again to Rick and the VCI folks, as well as our partners at Epic, Janet Campbell.
Well, Rick and Chris, just amazing what you guys have been accomplishing over there in California. And to keep it in the Golden State, we'll pass it over to our colleagues from Apple Health, Pascal and Ricky Bloomfield, with some exciting announcements on the Apple side. Ricky and Pascal.
All right, thanks so much. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Now, I don't want to make it seem too exciting that there's exciting announcements. We did have some announcements a couple weeks ago, and we will be talking about those. All right, here we go. You should be able to see my phone now. And what we announced at our Worldwide Developer Conference 2 weeks ago was native support for importing and viewing and sharing smart health cards within iOS 15. This is pretty simple, and I'll go ahead and show it to you now. All right. So if I'm in iOS 15, as you can see here, I'll go ahead and pull up my QR scanning view. And as you can see, what just happened right there, this is a QR code that was created by Walgreens and which we use in our WWDC developer session. And you can view that on a link that we can provide as well. And this card was scanned. It was recognized as a smart health card, just like I could do with the California record, which I actually imported myself, and it worked perfectly. Congratulations to Rick and the team who pulled that together. And it automatically recognized that smart health card, recognized that it could be opened in the health app, and opened it in the health app to show a preview, which is what you're seeing right here. And so this has taken the information from within this QR code, and it has also reached out based on the verification link, the public key that's available. And this green check mark that you see here represents the fact that the signature was validated of that file. And it was validated at this URL, this domain that you see here. So when I tap add to health, that record is then added to the health app. And I can go over to the browse tab where all health records exist. I have several accounts pulled up here, but I'll go ahead and tap on the Walgreens account. And you can see that these two records, there were two immunizations, both are presented here. And this is presented just like any other immunization, regardless of the source that it came from. So if you connected to your doctor's office or to LabCorp Quest, any of the thousands of locations that are currently available within the health app, this is how that data would be visible as well. You can see we have that same green check mark here. And this is step one, getting the data into the health app. And so also, and this is what was discussed in our developer session, we have a new API that's available for third-party apps to use to request access to a smart health card if it's on the user's device. And this is consistent with the APIs that are already available in HealthKit, as well as for clinical health records, where third-party apps can request access to that information. And so we have a sample app here that was shown in the developer session, which is publicly available. Anyone can download this sample app. And when I tap on request samples, you can see here that it pulls up an auth sheet that will be the same for any third-party app. And it shows the available smart health cards here that the user can choose from in order to share this with the app. And of course, everything is off by default, and it's up to the user to decide if and with whom they want to share this. So in this case, I have the one record that I just imported. I can tap on that and then tap share once, and then this third-party app gets access to that file. So any third-party app can implement this, and there's more information, and we'll provide a link to the session for that. So that's it for the demo, relatively straightforward. We wanted to highlight that one of the reasons this is so easy and so powerful is because it is built on open standards and easily scalable for anyone who wants to take advantage of it. And we're excited to see what people do with this.
Well, thanks so much, Ricky and Pascal, to all the hard work you and your colleagues at Apple have been doing. Well, I think now we'll pass it over to Trent and Ariana for some news and a walkthrough on the Walmart side. Trent, Ariana, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. So join in a minute when we get the screen up.
Sorry, we're having some brief technical difficulties.
There we go, Ariana.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Great. So hi, everyone. I'm Trent Ronald. I look after strategy and business planning for our digital experiences at Walmart on the health and wellness side, and joined today by Ariana Imani, who is our product lead on the Smart Health Card. And I want to share some exciting news with everyone. So earlier this month, we launched our Smart Health Card availability on Walmart.com and SamsClub.com. So any individual who is vaccinated at a Walmart or Sam's Club pharmacy or one of our special events that we've had has access to their digital vaccine record in a Smart Health Card format. We are currently in process of building awareness of this new capability through a series of communications going out to the vaccinated customer base that we have. So there's increasing consumer awareness on our end. Next, before I turn this over to Ariana, I want to mention some of the principles that helped guide us in our development of this. from our perspective, and I think this is kind of shared with many of the people here, is making accessibility to people's health records in a verified way that's convenient, secure, and more important to us, free as well. Putting control in the hands of the consumers, it's their health record and how can they easily access it. We followed a standards-based approach. While we have some partnerships with Clear and the Commons project, we also want to make anything that we are building more widely adoptable out there in the marketplace as well, and working closely with partners who we trust. And so I want to thank JP and Paul and others from the Commons project who've been helpful along the way and kind of architecting our solution and helping testing everything through. So thank you guys. With that, I'll turn it over to Ariana.
Okay, so we're going to go into the brief demo. I'm just going to stop here and I'm just going to share the demo screen. So here we're going to see how a Walmart vaccinated consumer is going to access their digital vaccine record from their pharmacy dashboard. This is all encapsulated within the Walmart pharmacy experience. So just where they manage their medications, they can also see their vaccine record really easily. So here you can see that the consumer is adding in their PIN. This is to add just an extra layer of security. And then right up here is when you see Don Quixote's digital vaccine record. So the consumer is informed that their vaccine record is ready after they receive each dose of the COVID vaccine, and or if they had already received the vaccine prior to the DVR being rolled out, they would also receive a text message and they would be directly led to their vaccine record. Additionally, they can always get access to their vaccine record directly from their Walmart pharmacy dashboard, and they can see more info about how they can use the vaccine record, what it affords them, and how they can use the vaccine record to get back into some level of normalcy. So a very quick and easy demo here, but here is what the vaccine record for Don Quixote, who was vaccinated for Pfizer at the Walmart Centerton pharmacy.
Right, and that's it on our end.
Well, Trent and Ariana, that's just amazing how much has been accomplished in such a straightforward demo. Thank you so much for sharing that. So up until now, we've been talking about in general the issue of smart health cards, principally here in the United States. But to speak a little bit about some of the exciting things going a little bit north of us, in the province of Quebec in Canada, are our friends from Akinox and Alex. Alex, please take it away and share some of the exciting news going up in Quebec and Canada.
Thanks so much. Pleased to be with you, and I'm honored to follow such exciting member showcases. I will share my screen as soon as Zoom allows it, because it's showing everything as black right now. All right. This should work. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
All right, so we are a healthcare process automation platform provider. We've been at work for nearly 20 years, helping transform public healthcare systems to optimize processes, whether in hospitals or amongst hospitals. And we've been covering in the Great North, our Innu and Cree and friends, other Native American friends, who are hundreds of miles away with no internet access or sporadic internet access to the nearest hospitals. So we've built efficient processes for virtual care, complex care trajectories, and virtual health. And in March 15th, 2020, we got the call saying, hey, we need your solution to help with contact tracing, case management, and all of that. So since then, don't trust the date of birth that you'll see on my proof later in the demo. I'm actually 22, but this is what over a year of helping with the national crisis will do to someone. So since we've integrated the booking portal, vaccine registry information, the patient registry, lab registries, and all of the public health data for public health purposes, we were then tasked by our minister, and shout out to the incredible collaboration with the Quebec province, state, and public health officials that really wanted to innovate and to ensure that we get data to citizens as early as possible so that they can own their data and their processes. So we collate this information and have an email SMS push when somebody gets a vaccine. They'll receive an invitation to go get their credentials and a self-service portal where somebody can get their credentials. Process itself is pretty simple. Get a booking. Data is entered into the provincial registry. We're fortunate enough that it's a legal requirement in the province to have all of this data centrally kept by the government. A push is done to our service. We resolve the identity with the provincial registry, get contact information from the booking service, and invite someone to obtain their credential. They land with a unique JWT token. They land on a secure page with a consent options and a credential download options, which right now consist of getting the PDF, but we're also working on integrating various wallets, including our own. PDF itself contains the QR code and the information that you obtain from the vaccine registry or the test results, and nothing more. So we were privileged to be pretty early. We had we have a health minister with cojones, as we say, and he wanted to say, even though there were no use cases for the QR code yet, he said, "I don't want things to be a paper. It's 2021. Let's give something that is a digital readable format." So at the end of May, we already had over 3 million credentials issued to Quebec citizens and residents. To date, we have over 5.3 million invitations sent out of 7.3 million doses administered. And of those 5.3 million invitations, nearly 5 million have actively downloaded their proof. Again, despite the fact that there is no authorized domestic use case or even a travel use case for that particular proof at this particular time for Quebec. So since there is a delta, some people did not go through the booking platform to get their vaccinations. We have a self-service portal where they're able to enter their information and obtain their proof in a poll manner. The Verifier process, as you know, there's no identity binding in the QR code. So when you present the QR code, you need to also present a photo ID to justify that you are who you are. So we have a wallet and Verifier app, which is approved by, and thank you our friends at Apple for helping speed things along for the App Store, based on the Vaccine Credential Initiative standards and principles. And we also seek to align our work with the World Health Organization, International Civil Aviation Organization, and EU standards, so that we're able to interoperate with them directly from the app. The app is also multilingual, presently English and French, accessible, compatible with screen readers, approved by iOS and Android, and respects privacy. So there's no geolocation, there's no user tracking, and all the verification is done offline. So our interpretation rules for public health is synchronized, is piloted and then synchronized offline with an expiry date. So you have to sync your app ever so often so that you have fresh rules to determine the validity of the protection based on public health rules. It's been built for really, really rapid validation of proofs. So we have the app continuously scans for QR codes, and within less than 200 milliseconds decodes and runs the rules from the rules engine with a simple explanation of the validation for end users. And again, it runs fully offline. So without further ado, it's always more fun to see something run. Let me get the app. So there it is. First access, you'll get a little tutorial. Okay, so you get your permission required. The only thing we require is access to the camera to scan QR codes. You're invited to add a proof of vaccination or do it later. So we'll say, let's take this particular code here, Johnson Biggleston. People who work with the Smart Health Card format will recognize this name from the demo proofs. So save it to the wallet, and you can have multiple proofs for multiple individuals, for your family, etc. You can consult the proof and present it to anybody you choose to. We also have technical details for the payload because we've noticed that a lot of IT folks are very curious about what the government does, and helping them have trust in what we build is important. So the verification, as I mentioned, is pretty high speed. We see that this is from an unknown issuer, so we don't have the private key for that particular issuer. If we go to another person, we see that they're certified by the government of Quebec. In my case, I only have one dose, so I have partial vaccination, one dose is missing. So those rules from the public health rules are defined. As you can see, this is all pretty snappy to ensure that we can get to as many people through a queue as possible. And that's really about it. Let me just have a few words in conclusion. So some recommendations, since we've gone through quite a few, and it's a little strange for IT providers to have you type a few lines of code and then 2 hours later it's in the media. It's under a lot of scrutiny, this kind of thing. So the principles are key, and we're really grateful for all the work that has gone in the VCI to establish strong principles that help communicate with decision makers and with the public. We have to educate people on the distinction between credentials and passports, that this is risk management and not exact science. So your revocations, some people may eventually have somebody else's proof and they don't ask for it to be corrected, or they know that it should be corrected and they don't, and they try to use it. It's all risk management. We can't account for every single use case. That the proof is not encrypted. It's cryptographically signed. It doesn't mean encryption, and that means you should not share it on social networks if you don't want your date of birth to be shared like I did. I'll point people to the smart health cards frequently asked questions. We're very grateful for this work. We're happy to provide a French version, and hopefully there will be many other languages prepared so we can all point to a source of reference. Governance and support is also critical. We have a lot of, in healthcare systems, we have a lot of laborious and manual processes. And the first reflex for this was, well, if people don't manage to get their proof, we'll send them to the vaccination centers in person for them to get validated. So we're really pushing to recommend a virtual first approach and an asynchronous virtual first approach. So you have a ticket tracking like Facebook, if you have to validate the identity, if you have to certify credentials that are outside of your jurisdiction or authority, try to optimize all of those processes so that you don't send people in person to locations, especially in the pandemic times. It's not the best idea. And that this is a great foundation to build upon. The VCI, you can then add digital ID, you can add passport notions, you can add the rules as we did. You can integrate zero knowledge proofs and selective disclosure and go with different wallets and all of that. But just getting the issuer piece worked out and having a common interoperable open standard to work from is awesome. It's a great stepping stone. So that's it. Thanks all.
Alex, just phenomenal progress and work to date. It's always amazing to have a chance to speak with you and see all the work that you're doing up in Canada. Truly amazing. 5 million of these cards issued to individuals is just remarkable. So hopefully everyone's gotten a sense of the incredible progress on the issuing of smart health cards to date with the brief demos from the state of California, the UC Health System in San Diego in particular, as well as Apple, Walmart, and now Equinox. And so as you kind of can appreciate the adoption acceleration in the issuance phase, we have some important updates that we wanted to share on the technology front. And so with that, I will turn the mic over to my colleague, JP, from the Commons Project with some important news and updates on the technology front. JP, take it away.
Thanks so much, Brian. Hello, everyone. So after all of those wonderful demos, I think it's pretty clear that smart health cards have started making their way into the market, and that the spec and tools for validation and information about how to get these things up and running have been serving their purpose. And we're seeing a lot of great successes, which is truly exciting. So with that, today, as Brian mentioned, we're going to focus our tech update a little bit more on the verification side of the smart health cards. So we'll cover a few topics. The first, I'll talk about the Vci Directory of Issuers. Second, I'm going to talk about a Smart Health Cards verifier application that is in the works. And then finally, Reese will talk about a verifier code of conduct, which we hope will help folks better understand some of the lay of the land in terms of what best practices should be around accepting and verifying smart health cards. So on the topic of the VCI directory, the purpose here is that because smart health cards are an open framework, quite literally anyone with the technical chops to do so will be able to properly form and issue a smart health card. Because of this, it's important that people who are accepting and verifying smart health cards have access to a trusted list of issuers, so that they're able to understand whether or not the particular smart health card came from someone who is in fact an issuer of vaccines or an issuer of vaccine records, and someone who can be trusted to issue that particular credential. So the purpose of the directory will be to allow anyone, and this directory will be accessible to anyone, to first confirm the legitimacy of an issuer. So let's make sure that we understand that the state of California is in fact a legitimate issuer of smart health cards for vaccination records. We saw Walmart earlier. Let's confirm that the domain is in fact a walmart.com domain issuing keys and not a WAL or WAIMART.com domain, for example. This directory could be used to build out a proper trust framework. Certainly, this is the anchor to what we're doing with the Common Trust Network at the Commons Project, and it could be used to explore or surface an available list of issuers of smart health cards on a website or just for exploratory purposes. On the topic of issuers for the VCI directory, initially we're planning to focus on a narrow set of key issuers that are going to cover a large proportion of smart health cards issued throughout the US and beyond. So those initial key issuers are going to include health systems that are served by the major EMR vendors who are VCI members and you've seen participating in various calls to date. They'll include retail pharmacy chains, and they're going to include state and state registries. The reason for this narrowing of scope is just to be certain that the first issuers that we have coming into the market and that are represented here in this directory are able to be properly vetted, and we're able to ensure that they're issuing smart health cards correctly and don't need to sort of get bogged down with being certain that we can validate every potential issuer. Over the longer term, we hope to find ways to accommodate everyone who's issuing smart health cards. For issuers to get listed in the directory, they simply have to attest to some basic sets of terms, which will be available for everyone to sort of evaluate in the very near future. But those effectively include things related to issuing smart health cards that are properly formatted in terms of the data included, the signatures, and have passed all of the various validation tools that we've provided. And there are some requirements around maintaining public keys so that when you do issue smart health cards, folks are able to use those in perpetuity as they need to. In terms of wallet and holder application makers or personal health record applications like the demo that we saw from Apple earlier, wallet and holder apps can use the directory for a couple of different purposes. Should they want to confirm the legitimacy of issuers before pulling those into their application, they certainly can. If you want to display proper names of issuers rather than domain names for issuer key sets, you can use this directory to do that. The structure of the directory will be extremely simple. Effectively, the matched pair of that key location, which is what you can pull from the smart health card itself, and the proper name of the trusted issuer. For wallet app and holder app makers, we're going to provide guidance on how to credit and display issuer information for the smart health cards, so that along the lines just described, when someone is presented with a smart health card in a wallet or holder application, we can provide information about where that was issued and display that on the smart health card. And we're also going to be educating, or we're going to be encouraging and providing guidance for these app makers to educate users about what it means to share their health information. It's as potentially one of the main vehicles for folks having, controlling, and sharing their smart health cards. We feel that it's important that the wallet and holder application makers providing tools for individuals to be well aware of the fact that, for example, when they permit someone to scan their smart health card, they're conveying all of the data that are contained within that QR code, or if they're sharing it via an API, as the demo we saw earlier, that you see a similar sort of share sheet to what Ricky was able to demonstrate. In terms of verifiers, verifiers can use the directory for all of the same purposes. This is hugely important for verifiers, as we know, to be able to confirm the legitimacy of folks who are issuing smart health cards. But verifiers also have another role in this, which is to help ensure a safe experience for the people who are using their smart health cards. And to try and foster a little bit of a safer ecosystem and experience for people who are sharing their smart health cards with potential verifiers, whether that's a school or a restaurant or a concert venue. We're taking a couple of steps in addition to the guidance that I just described in terms of providing wallet makers and issuers, in terms of the kind of messaging that users should see before they share a smart health card. We're also going to be providing a free and open verifier app, which I'll describe in a moment, as well as some documentation and materials around a verifier code of conduct that we hope verifiers will follow, which Reese will discuss a few minutes after that. So moving on to the Smart Health Card Verifier application. Simply, we hope that this will be the easiest choice for anyone who needs to verify smart health cards. Certainly, this work has been inspired by the great work in California and the fact that potentially many small businesses throughout the state will be hoping to verify smart health cards. And we found that it was really important that we provide a tool that's easy and open and free, that protects people's privacy and kind of acts as the default solution in the marketplace for this purpose. So the Smart Health Card Verifier app serves a very simple purpose and is not at all unlike what Alex just demoed, which is fantastic. So it verifies and displays the contents of smart health cards. It confirms an issuer against a trusted registry. Personal data never leave the device when using this verifier application. It's completely free, and the source code will be available ASAP. And with that, I'm going to give a quick demo of this application. And unlike those before me, I am not nearly brave enough to demo live off of my iPhone. But just to show that this is sort of real time here, I did include a quick screen grab of Rick's presentation and recorded this kind of in real time here. So this is the basic Smart Health Card Verifier application. Really not a whole lot to it. The intent here is as I just described. And so we'll start out by me going and taking a look at my screen here, where I've screenshotted from Rick's great presentation. We will capture his QR code there. And second here, this will pop up on screen. And the Smart Health Card Verifier app, as you see, is just presenting the information as it appeared in the Smart Health Card. We might take some feedback from market and users and modify some of the information that's displayed here on the screen. But at present, the intention of this is not to make judgment. It's not to sort of determine if someone has a particular immunization status. It's simply to display the information that's present in a smart health card, to display that the smart health card that itself is valid, that the keys check out and it has not been tampered with, and that the issuer comes from a trusted network. In this case, the issuer the trusted network that we're using is the Common Trust Network, which is effectively the Vci Directory plus a few other entities which we may get to vet before folks make their way into Vci Directory. So next, I will scan another smart health card to continue the demo here. So last we scanned a fully legitimate health card. Now we're going to scan one that maybe looks slightly legitimate, but comes from an issuer that we don't know. So in this case, we'll return a partially verified result. So the smart health card itself is valid, the signatures all check out, and the data is properly formatted. We're able to represent that. But the issue that we have here is that the issuer is not recognized. Now, on my previous screen, I pretended it was VaxMart. In reality, this is a pre-prod QR code from LA Wallet. LA Wallet is, in fact, the state of Louisiana's health card issuance system and mobile driver's license system. And the actual LA Wallet is quite a trusted issuer. But in this case, for demonstration purposes, you can see that we were able to validate the smart health card, but the issuer is not in fact in network. If we move on, we'll scan one more smart health card for the purposes of demo. And we can see here this sort of chicken scratching. Maybe this is on somebody generated their own smart health card on their computer at home, and this is the New York clinic. When we scan this smart health card, it has properly been rejected. And that is it. So effectively, this application does, as was promised in the last little bit there, we're preparing it now for submission to app stores and hope that it will be available as quickly as possible for anyone to use, again, for free. The source code will be made available ASAP as well, so that anyone can take this first, so that it's fully auditable in terms of what's happening with people's information and how the checks work. And second, so that if someone wants to take this code and build their own verifier application, check it against a separate trust network, whatever that might be, they would be free to do so. At this point, I'll turn it over to Reese to talk about the code of conduct that is underway.
Thanks, JP. This one will probably be pretty quick. Let me just see if I can share my screen here. And I cannot because of system permissions, but maybe JP, if you still have the screen share, if you wouldn't mind just jumping over to vci.org. That's all I wanted to show really quick. But we've had a lot of great progress on the issuer side, and on smarthealth.cards, some great guidance for individuals about what their smart health card contains and the care that they should take when sharing it with others, and the information that it contains. But we wanted to give similar guidance of best practices and expectations of verifiers from VCI as well, to help them understand how they should handle smart health cards when they're given to them, and just some of those basic best practices that they should be following. So this is still a work in progress, but now if you go to the About page on the vci.org site, and you jump down to the VCI Verifier Code of Conduct, this is where we're going to be starting to build out the Verifier Code of Conduct with some of the basic tenets that VCI expects of verifier applications. To not store smart health cards beyond the length that they need in order to actually verify a smart health card, that they're ensuring that they're checking smart health cards against a list of trusted issuers, and that they're complying with applicable local laws and maintaining a patient's privacy. So this is something that we'd be happy to get feedback on as well, and encourage people to join chat.fire.org, and something that we're building out to help the verifier ecosystem as well as these smart health cards get out into the wild and then verifiers start to come online. And that's it for me. So I think back to you, Brian.
Great. Well, thanks, Reese, and thanks, JP, for that update of some really important new initiatives and direction that we're going in VCI. Again, as the adoption curve ramps up on the issuer side, it's important for us to start addressing many of the questions that are actually coming through the Q&A chat window here on the verifier side and some of the privacy concerns. So hope everyone's gotten a sense of the incredible progress to date. Here at VCI, we're incredibly excited about that. We, I think, are going to wrap things up here with Dr. John Halamka providing a perspective on where we're going with VCI and all the accomplishments that so many of you have shown so far. So Dr. Halamka, take us home.
Well, thanks so much. I'm sure all of you have read the work of John Cotter on change management. And what did John tell us? He said, first, we need a guiding coalition. Well, that's all of you. You need an urgency to change, right? We have seen that going back to life and back to work, we need to empower our consumers with tools so that they can participate in whatever activities they wish. That they are given a convenience, they are given a standard. So really, we have followed these change management rules with VCI extraordinarily well. But there's some other things that are needed. As folks may remember back to meaningful use and some early interoperability activities, we would say, oh, here's a standard and the standard is sufficient. Well, I think what we recognize is the standard alone is not. That you need supportive infrastructure like a directory or open source code for a verifier. You need codes of conduct and best practices. So I also would argue that VCI, as this collection of all of you, has all those necessary components for a functional platform that everyone in government, academia, and industry can now promulgate. It is a complete ecosystem. I think it's also important to recognize it's open source and standards-based. This is not requiring a proprietary technology or proprietary standard that is charged for. Obviously, whatever industry products are created using it, they may charge for identity management or workflow or whatever it is they wish, but the standards themselves are freely open to all of you. We also recognize that VCI has been purposefully limited in scope. We are not trying to tackle the identity management problem or identity proofing problem. Others may do that, and that's great. It's just not the scope of VCI. We are not suggesting there needs to be a canonical central source of data before VCI will work. As we've heard today, you might have a state government with an IIS, or you might have an EHR, or you might have an entity like a Walmart. I mean, all of these organizations can use their own data sources with the VCI standards to provide the consumer the tool they need. And really, that's great. Doesn't require centralized infrastructure. You also heard today that it does not mean that VCI has to decide the rules. This is not a passport. This is simply the mechanism of displaying validated, verified clinical information. And so that may be, and again, making this up, Brian, a sports team might decide that Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J are fine, but this other vaccine made somewhere else is not. It's not our issue, right? They decide whatever rules they wish for whatever business process they support. So again, we are just an enabler for rules that may be made by others. Last thing I'll say is that some folks say to me, oh, well, the EU has their standard and Israel has their standard and India has their standard. Why don't we just create one standard that works everywhere for everything? I think all of you know, because we've all been in this standards world for decades, that it is very rare in history that you get to one standard for everything. What you hope is you don't get huge numbers of standards. Can you deal with 5? Sure. Can you deal with 50? Not so much. And that you might over time see crosswalk from one standard to another. So I think, as you say, Brian, where are we going to go with this? You're going to see more adoption in government, academia, and industry. You're going to see more use cases. And presumably, we'll see, as there is urgency, crosswalks against whatever other variations in standards there might be to empower a workflow, and not the dream of one standard everywhere for everything. Probably not going to happen. I guess the last conclusion I would make, Brian, is one of the things that's lovely is this is a totally apolitical activity. And that is sometimes as you read about a vaccine passport or look at variations in local regulations, you say this could be controversial. The reality is we're simply providing a tool, and that tool is to be used by the consumer in any way they want with their choice. And we are, as I said, not forcing its use, nor forcing the rules, nor declaring it an identity-proofed government document. All of that is outside of our scope, so we are completely apolitical. So, hey, look forward to continuing our work together. And just as we heard from California, University of California, Apple, Walmart, Equinox, we're going to see more and more adoption with every meeting.
Thanks so much, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.